When Elias Ward first learned that the Galactic Concord employed living clones, he assumed they were used for menial labor or hazardous exploration, disposable bodies grown for disposable tasks. He did not imagine they were grown for diplomacy. He certainly did not imagine that one of them would change his life, alter an empire's future, and place him at the center of a royal crisis spanning 3 star systems. Elias was a xenobiologist by training, a human specialist assigned to study interspecies compatibility aboard Concord Station Halcyon. Humanity was still considered a young species, clever, adaptable, and unsettlingly persistent, but not yet trusted with high politics. Elias liked it that way. He preferred laboratories to council chambers, data to ceremony. That was how he met Lyrax. She was introduced to him as Lyrax Theta, a biological duplicate of Queen Seraphel of the Varelian ascendancy. Grown from the Queen's own genetic template, Lyrax existed as part of a long-standing Varelian tradition. Clones used to experience the wider galaxy without risking the monarch herself. They were not mindless copies. Each clone awakened with baseline memories and instincts, then developed their own personalities. Lyrax was curious in ways the real Queen reportedly was not. She laughed too easily, asked too many questions, and wandered the station with Elias as her unofficial guide. Where other species treated him with polite distance, Lyrax treated him like an equal, sometimes like a puzzle she intended to solve. Their relationship began innocently, shared meals, long discussions about biology and culture, debates about whether individuality could exist without origin. Lyrax was fascinated by humanity's chaotic genetic diversity. Elias, in turn, was captivated by her blend of regal presence and unpolished wonder. He should have known better. Everyone aboard Halcyon did. But isolation has a way of narrowing the universe to what's immediately in front of you. Their bond deepened during a 6-month research rotation. Emotional intimacy came first. Physical closeness followed, not as a conquest or scandal, but as 2 sentient beings reaching across cultural boundaries. There were protocols, of course, medical clearances, consent matrices. Concord law permitted interspecies relationships so long as both parties were adults by their species standards and capable of informed consent. What no one accounted for was Varelian reproduction. Varelians were considered genetically incompatible with most known species. That assumption had gone unchallenged for centuries. No one had ever tried hard enough, or with enough emotional resonance, as Varelian scholars later argued. When Lyrax collapsed during a routine scan, Elias was the first to realize something was wrong. The diagnosis stunned the medical wing. Lyrax was pregnant. At first, the Concord assumed an error, then contamination, then sabotage. But the data held. A hybrid embryonic structure had formed, stable, developing, and unmistakably viable. Elias sat frozen as the lead physician turned to him with a look that blended awe and terror. "You may have just rewritten half of xenogenetics," she said. News traveled faster than light ever could. Within days, the Varelian ascendancy demanded Lyrax's immediate return. The Concord Council convened emergency sessions. Religious factions declared the pregnancy either a divine convergence or a dire heresy. Elias was placed under protective custody, not imprisonment but not freedom either. Lyrax, pale and trembling, took his hand before boarding the ascendancy vessel. "I wanted to live," she whispered. "I didn't know it would mean this." Elias wanted to go with her. He wasn't allowed. Weeks passed. Then months. Then the real queen arrived. Queen Seraphel of Varelia did not enter a room so much as redefine it. Taller than Lyrax, adorned in living crystal regalia, her presence pressed down on everyone around her. Where Lyrax had been warm and questioning, Seraphel was controlled and precise, every movement calculated, every glance measuring worth. She summoned Elias to a private audience chamber. "You carry my bloodline forward," she said without preamble. Her voice was calm, resonant, dangerous. "Through my clone." Elias swallowed. Lyrics is her own person. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "She is of me, and what she carries now belongs to the ascendancy." Elias braced for condemnation, punishment, or execution. What he received instead was an offer. "The child she carries has triggered responses," Seraphel continued. "Biological resonances within myself. Our scientists are divided. Some claim it is coincidence. Others believe Varelian genetics recognize successful compatibility and seek reinforcement." Elias frowned. "Reinforcement?" The queen's gaze locked onto him. "You," she said. "I require confirmation." The implication struck him like a meteor. "You want..." He stopped, choosing his words carefully. "You want me to father a child with you?" "Yes." The galaxy reeled. The ascendancy framed it as destiny. Humanity framed it as a diplomatic nightmare. The Concord quietly panicked. Elias refused. Not out of fear, but out of loyalty. "I won't be used as a tool," he said. "And I won't betray Lyrics." The queen studied him in silence for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, she laughed, softly, genuinely. "Good," she said. That answer alone proves the theory. Seraphel did not coerce him. Instead, she did something unprecedented. She waited. During the months that followed, Elias was granted supervised access to Lyrics via quantum communication. He watched her grow stronger, calmer. The pregnancy stabilized. Their child, developed traits no database could classify. Lyrics was no longer the same person he'd known. Motherhood had grounded her. She spoke of responsibility, of futures, of choosing one's own meaning even when born from another's shadow. Meanwhile, Queen Seraphel observed Elias, not from afar, but up close. She questioned him relentlessly about human ethics, love, stubbornness, and sacrifice. She studied how he treated station workers, how he spoke to enemies, how he refused special treatment even when offered. Over time, her interest shifted. It was no longer purely biological. "You humans are infuriating," she admitted one evening, standing beside him at the viewport. "You defy optimization." Elias smiled faintly. "We call it being human." When Lyrics gave birth, the galaxy held its breath. The child lived. Not a hybrid abomination. Not a fragile anomaly. A new branch of life. The ascendancy celebrated. The Concord rewrote its laws. Humanity realized, too late, that it had just become genetically relevant on a galactic scale. Only then did Queen Seraphel return to Elias with her final decision. "I will not take you," she said. "I will ask." The difference mattered. She offered partnership, not possession. A union that would bind their species not by conquest or cloning, but by choice. Elias thought of Lyrics, watching from afar with a knowing smile. He thought of the child who would grow up belonging to more than one world. He thought of humanity's long history of being underestimated and the strange, beautiful trouble that always followed. He accepted, not as a subject, not as a trophy, but as a man who had accidentally changed the fate of an empire, simply by being human. And this time, the galaxy was ready to pay attention.